All right. Thank you again for coming back. Sorry for the typo on the title there. Mr. Austin will have that corrected.
I will. I'm
will.
correcting it right now.
He's correcting it right now. Right. Let's take a moment right now and smash that like button so that the algorithms in place could hopefully push this podcast up to the forefront so that people can see some common sense out here in this crazy world. Also, make sure you follow the We the People podcast network on Facebook. And as a third thing to do now, let's crack open our drinks so we can have our conversation as friends. Yes. All right. So today, I'm going to go over a couple of things. I have an amazing guest, Mr. Matt Drouin. He will be coming in to discuss some of the issues that we're seeing with the housing problems, the eviction problems, landlord tenant issues. But today I want to start the conversation about poverty. And I want to give you an understanding of what I believe poverty is. And I really, truly believe that poverty is a result of bad habits, bad behavior, and unfortunately, a bad subculture. There's a culture out there that kind of puts bad behavior into the limelight and makes it out to be a thing that you should be proud of. And in actuality, it does nothing but provide a negative outcome for you in your life, whether that be poverty or jail or other things that just mess up the rest of your life. Because you never realize how much happens in your earlier life that could affect you later on in terms of getting a job or marrying a significant other. These are the things that come up from your past that you don't realize really do impact you long term. And we need to, as parents, as friends, really discuss how to build each other's willpower, right? How to build up your willpower. Your willpower is like a muscle. You need to work it out. You need to build it up so that you are giving up your short-term wants in exchange for long-term gains. We keep making decisions, and we're seeing it a lot lately, especially with the COVID pandemic and people getting some extra income and spending money on just ridiculous things. I see a lot of boats. I see a lot of new bodies. A lot of people going on vacation in Dominican Republic and Florida and coming back looking a whole brand new body. Look, that's fantastic. Good for you. You'll get a lot of likes on Instagram. But if you end up with less money after COVID, less money in your pocket, in your savings account, in your investments, in your 401k, if you end up with less that can give you the financial freedom, because that's what money is all about. Having money is about having financial freedom, having choices. It doesn't buy you happiness, or if you think it doesn't buy you happiness, you're shopping at the wrong places because, you know, the things that I spend money on usually bring me happiness. All right. So you're not purchasing the happiness, but you're purchasing the things and you're having the ability to purchase things that lead to having a more enjoyable, happy life for you and your family. And it's really all about giving others around you the life that, you know, you wish you had, your family, your kids, giving them the life that you wish you had, but also instilling in them that bad habits, bad behavior, and really exemplifying any kind of bad culture is not what you want to be showcasing in your life. It's certainly something that's going to bring destruction. The next topic, I actually was told, I had asked somebody to come on the show, and I like to have all kinds of stances on here, all kinds of political stances, because I truly feel that we can have a true conversation, a logical conversation between human beings where we can agree to disagree on certain topics. But someone had said, you know, well, I'm not sure how we can get on a show where you spew such far right stances. This is talking about me here. I don't believe a lot of the topics that I discuss, they're not far right stances. They are American standards that we need to live by. I have pledged myself to uphold the Constitution and uphold your Bill of Rights twice. Once when I joined the military, and once when I was sworn in my elected position. I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution and the rights that come with it. I have put myself in harm's way when I was in the military for your rights. I put myself out there on social media, on podcasts, on the media, on so many different platforms, standing for freedoms and rights. These are not far right stances. What these are is that you're seeing someone standing up, putting themselves out there and putting them their own lives at risk socially to fight for your freedoms, whether that's against a mandatory vaccine. I am not against vaccines. I'm not even against those who are against vaccines. I am simply stating the government should have no decision making over what I must put into my body. Once you give up that, you're gonna regret it, because the government never gives you back your rights. They never have, they never will. If you see from 9/11, this technology you see here, your phone that's in your hands, your computers at home, we used to believe that we were safe from government intrusion on our computers and on our laptops and on our phones. We would never believe, and on those voice activated the Internet of Things, Austin.
The Alexas?
Yeah, you're a technology guy. I'm sure you got them all over the place.
No, man.
No, smart man.
I don't like it listening to me.
Exactly. Well, back 20 years ago, before 9/11, you would have never thought that the government would blatantly come out and say, we are watching what you're doing. We are listening to what you're doing. We are overseeing everything that you're doing. And if we don't like it, we're going to shut you off. And that was 9/11 when they came out and said, we are watching you and we want you to give up that right for the safety against the Taliban, against terrorists, right? And here we are from 9/11 back 20 years ago to today. And it has only gotten worse. Now they're talking about going on your social media, going through your text messages, and listening in on your phone conversation, saying, okay, you're spreading misinformation about things, and we're going to shut you off. Enforcement of law is not a far right stance. It should never be a far right stance. This is America. We have a quality of life issue right now due to a lack of enforcement of law, due to not holding people accountable to their actions. And if you saw last night, again, we're an international podcast, Austin, and there are people out there that don't know where Rochester is. Well, guess what? Yesterday, early morning, 3:00 in the morning, after we had the Puerto Rican festival, which the people that were at this 3:00 in the morning party out on the streets had nothing to do with the Puerto Rican festival. Okay, it always ends at a certain time, and you always see the nonsense afterwards. Our law enforcement did a fantastic job on Clinton Ave after the Puerto Rican festival. Fantastic job. We also had a safety committee out there that was helping to direct traffic. They did a fantastic job. But at 3:00 in the morning, you see this video of shots being shot at people. 2 people got shot, not killed, but shot, just for being out with some friends at 3:00 in the morning. And I've said time and time again, I've learned very quickly in life that nothing good happens after midnight. Did your parents ever teach you that, Austin? Because my parents didn't teach me that. I learned that the hard way.
Oh yeah. Well, 2 a.m. for me.
2 a.m. for you, because
Yeah.
because they trusted you more. I guess you're a better person than I was in college.
Sure. I've had some decent midnight to 2 a.m.s.
There you go. And again, it all depends on who you're surrounding yourself with as well. But certain times you just don't put yourself in certain circumstances to be caught in a situation where your parents, your family members, your loved ones will sit there and say, I didn't hear back from my child. I didn't hear back from my friend. I didn't hear back from my brother. And I know he was out last night. I knew she was out last night. These are things that, this is a quality of life. This is enforcement of law. These, again, are not far right stances. These are constitutional rights. These are things that we should have the pursuit of happiness, and not allow people who are pursuing bad to take over the quality of life and to give us a lesser than quality of life. Let's move on to the article here, and let's see if Matthew's here as well. This is a question of critical thinking skills. On here it says, this is an article talking about they did a poll on what people believe should be mandated, should be required. Look at the numbers here. 72% called, he walked out before I can get this here. Mask mandates a matter of health and safety, not an infringement on personal liberty. 72%. 70% agreed people have the right to choose not to get a vaccine, but shouldn't expect to be around those who did. 61% endorsed requiring vaccinations, except for those with a medical or religious exemption. These are more than 50% of the people who are okay with giving up their rights. They're okay with allowing the government to require that they wear certain attire, cover their faces, insert chemicals into their bodies. This, in my opinion, is it can't be right. What I would like to see, again, the question of critical thinking skills here, and it was one of my favorite classes in college. It was my favorite class in college, critical thinking. How many people did they ask? Who were these people that they asked? Where were they located? Because this could have been a question and they only asked New Yorkers. They only asked Californians. They only asked those who were under 25 years old or over 65 years old. You have no idea what the dynamics of the demographics for the people who responded to this. But you see, we're using statistics here. But when we're talking about things that go against the narrative, we're not allowed to use statistics. And for that, we need to make sure we have our critical thinking hats on, because there's some things out there that they're going to continue to push on us that will be against our rights, should be against our rights. And again, I am neither against you having a vaccine or for you against a vaccine. I don't care. You do what you want for your health. That's between you and your doctor. But don't require me to have it. I now have my guest, Mr. Matthew Drouin, on here. I know, Matthew, you came at the right time here. This has nothing to do with our conversation today, so don't worry. That's my monologue there that people can or cannot listen to. It's up to them. Do we have them on the video? Is your camera on? Did we get that on? All right, cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Matthew. How's your day going so far?
Oh, it's going great, man. Absolutely. Just sweating a lot.
Yeah, man, it's hot. It's just muggy out there. I can deal with heat. I've been in Texas. I lived in Texas when I was stationed there, and it's dry heat, and that still sucks. But man, that humidity, that will kill you.
Oh yeah. I don't have air conditioning in the house either, so we've been camping out in the bedroom, just trying to stay cool. So
I got a guy. If you need a central air guy, I got you. I appreciate you coming on. Did you want something to drink? Because we do have conversations over drink, but you don't have to. It's completely up to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw you having a beer, man.
Yeah, we got anything you want here.
A caffeine-free alcoholic beverage would be fine.
Cream ale or blue light or.
I'll do a cream ale, man.
All right, local. That's what I was gonna match your shirt too. It's the green on you. Are you Irish?
No, French Canadian. Well, my family is French Canadian, so.
That's funny. My last name Pio is actually a French Canadian German last name. People don't know this about me. Now you're listening in, you're gonna hear everything about me here. It's not my birth last name. This is my stepdad's last name. But it was short for Piowa.
Okay.
Lette was the ending of Pio, Piowa. And then they shortened it when they came in to America, immigrated from up above. And that's how we got Pio. And that's why people think it's a Spanish name, and it's a French, German, Canadian last name.
I did not know that.
There you go. You're probably the second person in the world that's outside of the PO household that knows this. All right, so let's get to the topics of conversation here. But I want to ask. There's always the first question I ask. What is it about Matt Drouin's growing up, raising of Matt Drouin, that made you become the man that you are today? That affects your decision-making skills. So what is it that you were raised in that makes you believe what you believe in today? Tell us about your past history and what brought you into real estate.
Well, oh man, my past history is definitely a big thing to unpack. But I grew up in a sort of middle blue collar family. My dad was actually a general laborer for Genesee Brewery.
Holler to the cream
I
ale.
know, yeah, absolutely, cream ale. And my mother was a dialysis nurse, and so they wanted to get us in my brother and I in a good school district. So they actually we lived in the city in the Maplewood neighborhood, and
Holler, Northwest.
yeah, and they relocated us to a house in Pittsford. They like spent every single dime they could to buy this house, and we spent a lot of time being house poor, and there was a ton of uh, household drama over a lack of money. So there was a lot of childhood traumas associated with that, and my parents eventually split, and it was because of money. I mean, on my basically the day of my mother's funeral, my dad looked me in the eye and he's like, "I really wish I could have worked out things with your mom." And the main stressor in that relationship that drove them apart was money or the lack thereof.
Yeah.
It was always arguments over money. My mom liked to, she liked to spend money. She liked to go to to Loman's. I don't know if anybody out there has been to Loman's Plaza, but she was a clothes shopper. And my dad, he looked working at Genesee Brewery, but he knew he needed to make more money in order to get ahead, in order for them to save for retirement and stuff like that. So my mother was always constantly battling him with, working after hours. He was a realtor. He showed houses in the evening and also on weekends, and she wanted him home.
Yeah.
So that's really the foundation of kind of what got me interested in real estate, is because after both my parents passed away, and I saw two hardworking Americans doing everything the right way, and they passed away and they had really nothing left. My dad was scrambling to save away enough for retirement. And, my mother, her estate was upside down, because being a kid, I think I was like 20 years old, and looking at basically the estate, and there was more creditors than there was in terms of assets, more liabilities and assets. I kind of got a crash course on personal balance sheets and stuff like that. So I am not the smartest person. So I sort of gravitated to a business that, my father was familiar with. He had 40 rental units in the inner city at one point in time. And he taught me a lot about that. And so that's kind of what got my interest in it. And when my dad passed away, I was like, I really need to take really, really seriously getting financially independent and not having to rely on somebody else or some system to live the life I want to live, which is, I'm a family man. I like to spend time with family and friends. That's really what motivates me. I like to do some traveling and that sort of thing. And financial freedom is probably the most expensive dream to have. It's more expensive than any fancy car or
and
clothing.
riskier.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of where I got my interest in that. So I started in real estate in 2006 as a realtor for Nathego Realtors, and so I started buying investment properties and that sort of thing when my dad kicked me out of the house, because he said, son, you got to live on your own. You can't live with me forever. And,
How old were you?
I was 22 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appropriate time to be kicked out of a house then.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I can't say the same thing for my friends,
Yeah.
I'm kind of on the tail end of the millennial generation, and a lot of us were, saddled with a lot of college debt.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of really like where I got my start with that. And I think that, I like real estate because there's the aspect of, buying and improving property and seeing what it can do for neighborhoods. And also for, it's a very, very tangible business. It's easy to understand. It's been coined the idiot's business. I wasn't the smartest kid in school. So I definitely gravitated towards that. I knew it wasn't going to be like, a software developer and, develop, the next killer app or anything like that. So that's why I got involved with that, and also allows me to give back a lot because I have a lot of freedom of time now. So,
well, that's fantastic. And a lot of people believe that in order to succeed, you have to be smart, or you have to be so knowledgeable about everything or about specifically that thing. But a lot of it comes down to willpower. A lot of it comes down to actually just taking that first step. Most of the billionaires and millionaires of this world are not that smart. They just took the chance, right? A lot of you obviously hear about the Elon Musk and the Bill Gates, and those guys are absolutely brilliant. But you don't hear about Henry Ford, that he was not very smart at all. His best thing was that he surrounded himself with smart people. So do you have a team around you? How have you gotten to where you are now? Which, if people don't know about Matthew here, people know you, right? People know you as someone who's up and coming developer who's doing some big things in the city.
Mhm.
So what kind of team do you have around you?
So, I mean, the first person that was a critical member of my team was my attorney. His
But isn't
name,
that too expensive?
no, no. I mean, here's the one thing is that we had an event last month, actually with Orlando Ortiz, which I think you know him.
I know Orlando very well.
And the topic was building your team. And when you can get really, really good professionals that have an enormous amount of experience and education, you can leverage that 15, 20, 30 years of experience and hundreds of thousands of dollars of education customized for what you want to do. And the return on investment for you using really, really high qualified rock star professionals is, that's like, it's like pennies on the dollar in
Right.
terms of the benefit. So that was the first person. Also, I was like very, very curious about everything. I'm still a curious person. So I was asking a lot of questions. And if there's somebody that's doing something that I want to do, or somebody like that is right now, they're where I want to be 20 years from now, I'm not afraid to reach out to that person. And the first thing I figure out is how I can bring value to that person. And so, so it led to a lot of conversations, and also, the lenders, banks are a huge asset of mine. That's another integral member of my team. So there's a few local banks that I work with. There's also real estate brokers as well. Even though I'm a real estate broker myself, I do more commercial, larger commercial deals that we purchase and develop. So our relationships with commercial brokers is really, really important. Your accountant as well. Taxes are a big, big topic. And so
How not to pay them?
Yeah, and how not to pay them. So real estate allows me to not pay any income tax. The IRS has wrote the rule book to benefit investors.
You just made a bunch of people scream when you said real estate allows you to not pay any income taxes.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people don't realize that how you use real estate as a tax shelter and how that differs from making a paycheck every week. So not to dive deep into that, but this is certainly something that you brought up. How do you bring value to someone that you're trying to get information from or trying to work with?
Mhm.
That's one of the big questions I ask somebody when they bring something up to me, or they say, hey, I'm trying to become my family's first millionaire.
Mhm.
Okay, what values do you bring? And they just, or their eyes like, I don't get it. I don't understand.
Mhm.
So I mean, I see a lot of the talks that you're doing around the city, and I see probably what do you do once a month?
Yeah, once a month. Myself, my friend Harold Bain, we have a program called Buy Back the Rock, Building Wealth in Real Estate. So we cover all topics associated with real estate. We like to source special speakers from underserved communities, because essentially at the end of the day, like what Harold and I are trying to do is really for the kids. And if we have people that are up there that are credible experts, that are speaking on a subject matter that's interesting, they can help people become financially independent and give them economic opportunity. And that person tends to look like that person that's receiving that knowledge, it's a lot more credible. Because I used to be the white guy trying to help, trying to put that information out there, and essentially, I got the response like, well, that's easy. You grew up in Pittsburgh,
Right.
and blah blah blah.
You don't know.
Yeah. You don't know what I've been
Right.
through, and believe me, I have not been through what a lot of kids go through to live in our communities. So that was sort of the inspiration behind that thought leadership platform. And also I put a lot of information out there on social media. This is how I put value out there in terms of education and information, so that they can be a benefit of people, inspire them. And also, the benefit to me is that I get considered as a thought leader or a subject matter expert. And that really builds my audience, builds credibility audience. And
It's a good brand to have.
Yeah. And there's people that I meet that I've never met before in my entire life that feel like they already own me.
Yes.
So from a sales process and a relationship building process, it makes it a lot easier to build credibility by being notable.
And it's free.
Yeah.
It's free. You take this thing, you do some videos, and you post it on your social media.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you get in front of people. And I used it when I ran for city council as well. And that's what I was really big on, was putting out as many videos as I could every day was what I was really gunning for.
Mhm.
Because like you said, it builds that credibility and people get to know you, the real you. And that's why I did a lot of lives. That's why this podcast, I made sure this podcast is live every Monday. You know,
this
where
isn't getting edited.
this is not getting edited. I did not. I don't think I told Matt.
Yeah, take out that
what is
income tax portion. Yeah.
No, this is what keeps people honest, right? They know that people are watching. They know that they're giving out, though. That's the blessing of being a giving person, is that you're always giving. And I see a lot of your videos, and I love it, because the things that I know are not the things that I knew 20 years ago, right? I wasn't raised with a father who knew real estate or understood real estate. And so I was learning as I went along. You know, I know the financing part, but I don't know how to take down a load bearing wall, which I did at my house by going through YouTube, right? Had some friends over, got a bunch of beer, and I said, we were taking down this wall right here. And got my son involved. He was, man, well, how old was he at that time? 8, 9 years old. And I said, just hammer away at it. And didn't even think about asbestos. I don't know anything about lead or anything like that. I totally did it the wrong way. But you talk about the teams and having the right people around you and providing information to those who are kind of without. Do you see a lot of the same people at the meetings every month, though, or have you seen it growing in the city? Because I feel as though more people are getting involved with real estate, but I don't want to feel that. I want to have statistics. I want to, you know, how do you see it at your meetings?
So yeah, we have some of the same people that come back every time. We actually had pre-COVID, we had a really good consistent audience of about between 60 and 80 people each month, which was
fantastic.
Which is a pretty big audience.
Yeah.
But post-COVID, we've definitely seen a drop off in that. People still don't feel comfortable going out.
Yeah.
So we decided, all right, we're going to start doing this again, because we took like about a year hiatus. And so we made it hybrid. So we made it, we can live stream it, and also we can have in person. And really the content of the meetups is not really like, you know, there's only a certain amount of you're going to learn in an hour. Right. The real magic happens when you get there and you have people that want to do the same things that you want to do, or people that have already done what you want to do. And you can build relationships with those people. And there's life-changing connections that have happened at our meetup. Like companies have been started, millionaires have been made locally.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of like where the magic is in terms of that, you know, that connection, because, you know, people don't realize, like, you can only do so much yourself. You really, really have to surround yourself with the right people, build the right team. And, you know, because if you try to do everything yourself by YouTubing it, by, you know, not building your network, you're going to have a very, very steep uphill battle.
And costly.
Yeah. And costly. And it doesn't need to be that hard.
Right. And you brought up the attorney before. A lot of times it's more expensive to not have an attorney than it is to have an attorney. Because if you would just pay the right amount up front, when it comes to contracts and legalities and title work and all the nonsense that goes behind the scenes, you can be in for a fight afterwards if you didn't do it the right way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I posted a video on forming an LLC, and the last bit of advice was use an attorney to form an LLC.
Yeah.
Because every single time I've had a colleague or a student that has formed an LLC the, you know, low bid syndrome way through LegalZoom, once they want to use that LLC to get financing or to buy a property, they have all types of issues in terms of, all right, do they have the publication right? Do they have this and that right? Do they have
articles of incorporation?
Their operating agreement right?
Right.
And then they pay an attorney more money to actually fix it than if they had it set up right in the first place. So that's the power of utilizing really, really good professionals in your business. So.
And not only that, you brought up a fantastic point about your meetups there. And a lot of people just see it as, oh, I got to go pay $10, $20, however much it may be, to listen to someone tell me about how to do this. I could just do it for free on YouTube. But you brought up, it's not that. That's only part of it. The other part is getting to meet the people around you, talking to your neighbor, talking to the person that's up there talking, and networking. People don't realize how important is networking in your line of business.
It's incredibly important, you know, building those relationships, because the thing is that if you try to just call somebody that you never met before about whatever you need, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
The one key to networking, though, is that I find that people think that networking is going into a big room and handing 100 business cards out to everybody. That's not it. Like, my goal when I go to an event where I'm going to network with people and build relationships is I want to make one friend. That's it, right? So it's very important to identify the right person that you want to do. So I research, all right, who's going to be there, right? What can I bring in terms of value to that person? So that's very important, because and sometimes the person you want to talk to is like not the loudest person in the room either.
Right.
There's a lot of millionaires that are out there that are very, very
Unassuming.
silent, unassuming. Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's the way I live my life. I'm not motivated by like, flashy things or anything like that. Like all I want to do is be able to have the freedom of my time to spend with the people that I love and be able to give back to people and put the ladder down. Like that's it.
I don't see very much bling on you.
No. Actually, I have a Rolex watch, right?
Okay.
And
when did you purchase that though?
I did not purchase it.
Okay. Continue with the story.
It was my dad's, right?
Right.
And it was the one thing that I basically, he had a bunch of stuff, right? And I was like, I don't want a bunch of stuff. I just want one thing. And this watch was given to him by my mother for like their 5th wedding anniversary or something like that.
Edna, are you listening to this? You hear this 5-year anniversary gift, a Rolex. All right.
Yeah. And that's like something that's a memento for my mother and father. And the thing is that this thing sits in a box in my house.
Yeah.
Once in a while I take it out and that sort of thing, but I don't want people to make those assumptions about me and that's the type of motivation that I have as a person. So I usually keep that thing at home, but no, besides that, I really don't have a lot. My wife buys clothes for me. I'll wear clothes until, actually my friend Harold bought this shirt for me.
Nice.
But I wear clothes until they're dust.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I got white tank tops that are not white anymore. And my wife's like, will you throw that away and go buy? I was like, why? It's a tank top. It's underneath my clothes. You'll never see me in it by itself.
Yeah.
So why does it matter? Or even like my socks. Like, oh, can you buy new white pairs of socks? I'm like, why? No one sees it. It's underneath my sneaker.
Here's a secret. You got to get black socks.
I got them now.
They never get dirty.
Yeah. Then they get holy. For some reason, it'll last as long as the white ones.
Yeah.
I don't know what the problem is with black sock manufacturers. They need to step up their game. Now, since you are in the real estate world, something came along. The Supreme Court issued new findings on the CDC guidance for the eviction moratorium. Some questions regarding that. Number one, do you think should the CDC even have the capabilities of requiring that landlords not be able to evict? Because to me, that seems like a complete overreach. Like the CDC is Center for Disease Control. That has nothing to do with private market, private real estate transaction, a contract between a tenant and a landlord. What in the world are they even doing in this spectrum? So what's your viewpoints and maybe those of other landlords? Why should the CDC be involved in this?
I think that, I used to be somebody that would debate something on principle. Principally, I think that it's that it is wrong. It is an overreach. But from a pragmatic standpoint, it's doing immense amount of damage to low-income housing, which is called naturally occurring affordable housing.
Naturally occurring affordable housing.
Yeah.
Proceed.
So, and that is the housing that is affordable. That is, that you have a tenant that doesn't pay more than 30% of their income towards it. We have a lot of naturally occurring affordable housing in the city of Rochester. And the thing is that I'm seeing a siphoning of investment capital out of where we need housing the most. According to the National Low Income Housing Coalition, in Rochester alone, we have a shortage of 56,000 affordable housing units. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that 56,000 people are homeless. It means that there's 56,000 people that either do not have adequate housing or they're rent burdened, spending more than 30% of their income towards housing expense. So what we're seeing is I'm seeing people just dumping all of their properties, responsible housing providers. I get actually challenged a lot on using housing providers as opposed to landlords. With the change in policy towards housing providers, we're not lords of anything anymore. We have very little rights as it comes to actually, control over our properties, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can decide to keep them vacant for as long as we want to, but once we get a tenant in there, we actually have very little rights.
Right.
That dovetailed with the Housing Stability and Tenant Protection Act of 2019 has really, really eroded that. And what we have is We have less control over who we can place in our units in terms of for screening processes. When we have somebody that doesn't pay, then we don't have the instruments in place, the tools in place for us to remedy that. If a tenant knows that they have a eviction as a consequence for not paying, then they're more likely to prioritize the payment of rent. I get it. We have tenants and residents that are juggling bills, right? And the key is, all right, housing is your most important thing, right?
Right. Roof over your head.
Roof over your head. So make sure you pay that, right? And not prioritize other things like cell phone bills or automobile bills or whatever you buy from Amazon and stuff like that. For me, my dad, one of the very, very most important things that he taught me is that, buy where you want to live. I invest in higher income areas because one, I don't want the drama. Okay. There's housing providers out there that do a really good job or did a really good job in providing affordable housing for our lower income residents. They're now out of business.
Yep.
And so I don't want to deal with that. I pay more for properties to get less cash flow because I don't want the drama. Right. And so we're seeing a mass exodus of people, responsible people that provide housing for lower income people. And what we're going to see a surge in boarded up vacant housing. Because what happens, we saw this in the last real estate cycles, we had a lot of out of state, out of country investors snapping up real estate in Rochester. And then the financial crisis hit of 2007, right? And when we saw that, we saw, all right, they can't collect the rent. They stop paying the property taxes. The property tax, they get foreclosed on. And then you have a house that is so messed up that it takes more money to fix that house up than it's worth. And then it goes to the city tax auction. And you see this cycle happening over again. And that's what we're going to see. And it really, really, it's really, really troublesome to me I drove down St. Paul to my way here. Right?
Street or boulevard?
St. Paul Boulevard.
Was it south of 104? Which is always crazy to me. I grew up on St. Paul Boulevard.
Okay. This was in the Crescent. All right.
Okay.
So, and it's like this, you wouldn't believe that you were actually in a country as wealthy as the United States going through this. I mean, the housing stock is really, really, really poor. We have people out there that have been willing to invest in those, improve those properties, and in the past, and give affordable housing options to our low income residents where we need the most amount of housing options. Right. And it's really, really troublesome to me to see that and also anticipate seeing that happen again. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Well, that's a lot. That's a lot more than just 2 cents there, because your input weighs heavily on a lot of people's minds, because I agree the same thing. And I have these conversations with the tenant association here locally. I've had it before we even had COVID, because these are conversations that need to be had. We can sit here and give the tenants all the rights in the world, which they absolutely should have, because there are slumlords out there who are just scummy people, right? That don't take care of their properties. But there's a lot of renters who are also the same way. They don't take care of the properties that they're spending money on. You brought up something that's very important to me, which is that rent burden part, where they're paying a higher percentage of their income on rent than they really should be. Being from the financial world, what we had to maintain was housing really had to be about a third of your income. And that was pre-tax income. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize that. You said a couple of things. You said assets, you said liabilities. We're talking about pre-tax here, talking about cash flow. I mean, these are a lot of words that a lot of people just don't know about. And we're not teaching them in our schools. Have you thought about putting together a program, or is there a program out there that people can go through to learn about this stuff here locally, maybe even after school program? Is there anything out there right now?
Yeah. So my friend Harold Bain, his thought leadership platform is called FIOP, or Financial Intelligence Over Poverty. He did put on a program with the Rochester City School District when school was in session. It was a program that was modeled after Dave Ramsey. And Dave Ramsey is—
Heard of him?
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't know who he is, look him up.
Yeah.
I mean, he is he's an expert on personal financial management. So Harold—
I don't agree with his debt stuff though, because he doesn't believe in debt.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's it. That's the thing is that, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right?
Absolutely.
I'm sort of a blend of a couple of, different approaches, Robert Kiyosaki and also Dave Ramsey.
Love him.
So Robert Kiyosaki says like, get as much debt as possible, right?
Yeah, that's cheap.
On appreciating assets. So I think that that's really, really important. I think that everybody can agree that our kids need to be equipped with those tools, but also, come on. I mean, that it takes a team to raise a kid. So the parents really need to invest in that education for themselves as well. Because if they're going to school and learning one thing and then they're going home and their parents are doing another thing, I mean, Vince Lombardi says leadership by example is the only way to lead. So you can't expect a successful outcome from just having it in the schools, right? But it could be a good start. So I definitely think that's very important in terms of integrating that into curriculum, because that's the one thing is that if people from our most impoverished neighborhoods miraculously are able to kind of break the chains of poverty, but they are not equipped with the financial know-how as to how to manage their new responsibilities in terms of higher incomes. I mean, that's where you have a lot of bankruptcies that happen. That's where you have a lot of foreclosures that happen.
Repo.
But we're not equipping those people with that types of, those types of knowledge. So,
well, it's thinking and it's the knowledge and it's the method of thinking, because a lot of times I talked about this the other day on my dog walk talks, and it's concerning. In the past year, a lot of people have made more money in the past year than they've made ever before in their lives, right? And a lot of people were getting paid more than people who were still working, and we see a lot of purchases going through. They say, well, they're giving us money in order to stimulate the economy. That's what they want you to do. They want you to spend that money. They don't want you to invest in your knowledge. They don't want you to invest in asset producing anything. And you brought it up, and I agree wholeheartedly. If we don't change the mindset of what debt means, what asset producing income or asset producing properties even entails, how to calculate it. The people who made more money last year than they're going to make in the next year, they're gonna have a hard time for the rest of their life, because they had the best opportunity this past year to invest in themselves. And it was sad to see a lot of people stimulating the economy instead of stimulating their brains. So I hope that more people look you up, look up your Facebook, look up the page and everything, and learn more from you too, because Dave Ramsey is fantastic. He's an icon. But you're right. You gotta listen to different people, because what works for you when it comes to your properties may not work for the Turo guy that he's renting out Audis every day. I talked to a guy. I rented a vehicle through Turo down in Florida. Okay. And I was very interested because I never saw it before, but I was looking for a rental vehicle.
Would you rent? Did you rent a Maserati or something like that?
No, I rented an Audi.
Okay,
an Audi A8 or something like that. And it was big enough trunk for our luggage. That's really what the reasoning was. At least that's what I used. I wanted a Cadillac. I'm sorry, not a Cadillac, a Corvette. But anyways, I talked to the guy. I said, how much? I'm a business guy. I'm really just asking for business related. And he's like, I buy a new Audi every year with the money I make from my Audi before. And he's like, I rent out Audis because they rent out faster than any other car that I ever rented out. And he's like, and I get to drive the vehicles. He's like, it's my Audi, but I rent it out and I make money on it. It makes, I think it was like $85 a day. Oh, wow. On an Audi that cost him maybe like $40,000, $50,000 maybe. He's making, I think after taxes, he said he's making about $56,000 a year just on his Audis, renting them out. That's on top of his income. And those are cars that he wants to drive. He wants to have fun with. Now, you said you buy houses in areas that you would live. What about vacation rentals? What about Airbnb? What are your thoughts on those? Are you in those, or is that something you're not really into?
Jose, I'm a recovering Airbnb host. Okay.
Yeah. Didn't go well?
Yeah. Short-term rentals is like it's like the new buzzword in real estate. Everybody's like, wants to do an Airbnb. Right. Because they see, the numbers and that sort of thing. It is really, really another job. It's a lot more management intensive than long-term rentals. Yeah. And also, I don't like the fact that with a pen stroke, a local municipality can basically put you out of business.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we have
Tax the crap out of you.
or tax you, or just basically say, all right, no more short-term rentals.
Yeah.
You know, we had a, complaint, enough complaints from, Mr. and Mrs. Smith that we're not going to allow short-term rentals on, whatever town
Beach
it
Ave.
is. Right. Exactly. So, so I think that, and there's a lot of people that are getting into it that, are running them a little sloppy in terms of from like from a management standpoint. So, you get some people that come and they have enough raging parties and you get enough documentation on this,
Mm-hmm.
lawmakers are going to basically are going to clamp down. So, so that's one thing I don't like about it is that there's a basically a regulation risk associated with that. And then also it's very, very management intensive. So, I mean, you have people moving in and moving out every other day. You have cleaners you have to arrange. You have to correspond with guests like, oh, what's the Wi-Fi code? Can you, use the manual? Like, that's on your, it's on your app.
Yeah.
So that's really, I'm not a huge fan of it, but if that's the only way you can do your first deal and you've never done a real estate deal before, by all means, like do it. But understand that, one thing, do not run your numbers based upon it being a Airbnb alone. Make sure that it stands alone on itself as a regular long-term rental, because if you get sick of doing it, then you can change it to a short-term rental and the property can cash flow, or even at the very least break even, and you'll be all right, lick your wounds and, kind of move on.
Man, you guys are getting gold here. If you're listening into this, you are getting gold from Matthew. If you're not learning something today, you got some explaining to do. So the short term, the best thing that I got out of what you actually said without actually saying it, because you mentioned earlier that your goal is to spend more time with family, and the short-term rentals took time away from your family. So your goal was more important. Your willpower to say, no, I'd rather not do that because my intention is to spend more time with my family. You got a recently new child, right?
Oh yeah. She just turned like 1 year old in May. So
congratulations again there.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to spend more time with that family. The decision to have a short-term rental takes away from that want.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't have that mentality because they don't even write down a goal, or they don't have any idea what a goal of theirs really is, what takes priority in their life. How many do you write goals down? What's your input on that?
Different things work for different people. I'm like a very obsessive person. So I established the goal for myself to become financially independent by the time I was 40 years old. I was able to achieve that 33. And all I did was I thought about that every single day.
Yes.
Right. Because I don't know who said it. I know Ray Kroc said it one time, but I think it was, he coined it from somebody else. It was, a man is what he thinks about every day.
Yeah.
So if you are, and that's really, really, if you're committed to it, but it definitely does help to reverse engineer, all right, this is what the goal is. All right, what are the yearly like milestones? What are the monthly milestones? What are what are my daily and weekly tasks I have to do that are accretive towards achieving that goal, right? So it could be, analyzing a certain amount of properties per week. Could be making offers on a certain amount of properties per week or month or whatever it is. So I think that it's definitely helpful for some people. For me, I was just naturally just obsessed with it. And I was like, like a dog with a bone. Like I just couldn't let it go.
Yeah.
Right.
You have no choice but to win when it's the only thing on your mind. And since you don't have anything else in your mind, you don't get into trouble because you ain't got time for all that.
Oh yeah.
You got time for what is on your mind, what is on your goal, what you're getting done, accomplished today. And you said something in there as well, which I'm sure went over people's heads, or they think differently about what it means. And if you don't know Robert Kiyosaki, then you wouldn't have grasped what you said, which was financial freedom. A lot of people hear financial freedom, they think you're a multimillionaire. What is financial freedom besides you being a multimillionaire?
So financial freedom is that you can have $0 and be financially free. If you don't need to spend any money, you don't need to make any money. What it means is that you no longer have to trade your time for dollars. Okay. So you make money, or able to sustain yourself regardless of the amount of time you put into it. So this is really quintessential, like passive income. passive income sounds sexy to a lot of people because like, oh, I don't have to work, I just get money, right?
Right.
The thing is that the reason why it's important is because you only have 24 hours in a day, right? So,
Everyone does.
yeah, you don't have a 25th hour, okay?
Right.
So when you start bolting on different areas of passive income from different properties or different businesses, you can do that and grow that irrespective of your time. So you become sort of a master of time, so to speak. So, and with me being in real estate, I consider myself a master of time and space. So, which is really really groovy, right?
Ooh, that's like Neo, the one from the Matrix.
so yeah. So I mean, that's essentially like you have to get exposed to these ideas, right?
Right.
And that's like, when you take the red pill, speaking of like the Matrix, right? Is that you got to exit the Matrix. You got to exit this whole thing of being trained to be a good little consumer.
Right.
Okay. Because that's what, that's essentially with this, economic stimulation is, right? It's like they want people to spend money on crap.
Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah. On absolute crap that
Right.
they don't need.
Right.
There's no, besides the rules that apply to like really, really high level investors in the IRS rule book, there's nothing that's like actual, like either from popular culture or from the government that is encouraging people to grow their economic capacity, to grow their economic empowerment. And that's really, really, it's sad, but it's an opportunity for you as an individual to really take advantage of the rules that have been, that have been given to you by the IRS rule book, by the banking system. The banking system used to be very, very difficult to borrow money to purchase real estate. The government changed that. They created Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and all these government sponsored enterprises that provide low cost financing for you to leverage and purchase multi-million-dollar properties. And this is really how the ultra wealthy get wealthy. 90% of millionaires in the United States have made their millions through real estate. So,
and kept their millions
in
real estate as well.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I think that, and the one thing is that, the only reason why, let's say, the tax efficiency of real estate is appealing to me is that I can take that money that I would have paid the government and reinvest it back in my business. I don't take that money and like, oh, I'm going to buy this or that or anything like that. It's like, I can take that and reinvest it back in my business and grow my business exponentially. So, and provide a enormous amount of generational wealth to my family and my community.
I don't think many people are going to grasp how important I'm going to go ahead and say this episode of this podcast, how important this one is to how it impacts so many people of Rochester, or how it could impact so many people of Rochester by getting them out of this ditch of poverty, absolute poverty. There are so many people who when I grew up, I lived at a house when if I wanted to go downstairs and get a cup of water, very young, Avenue C, I flip on a switch and you see cockroaches and mice running all over the place, right? If you've grown accustomed to that and you've went ahead and said, I'm okay with that, I'm okay with my children living in this, you're going to be stuck in that for generations, because then your children are going to be raised in that. My parents said, hell no, like we're not going to live in this. And the exact same way where they scrimped up together every freaking penny that they had to buy a house in West Aronicoit. Thank goodness they were able to buy it from a family member. I don't think she gave them much of a discount because our family's hardcore. But we, again, just like you, where we lived to pay the bills, unfortunately. And that's how I was raised, was you work hard and you pay your bills. You work hard, and then, if you have some money left over, you can buy the things that you want. Well, my mentality changed when I surrounded myself electronically with people who I wanted to be like, and then reached out to people locally. We've sat down and had a lunch together where I was able to pick your brain as well. And I've messaged you. I think that hopefully I could bring you some benefits in life at some point. If you want to learn how to get the right spot at Charlotte Beach and not be attacked by seagulls, let me know. I got you. Since you have more time to spend with the family, come to Charlotte. But it's important. It's so important for people out there who want better for their families. You're not going to get to the point where a Mr. Matthew Drouin is by working for somebody. It's not. They're going to tax you more. You get taxed more on your W-2 income than he does on his houses that he owns. And that's how the government stimulates people investing in manufacturing, in producing oil, in providing housing. These are things that the government gives you, and you take advantage of it, not because you're a bad person, but because the government says, this is how we're going to incentivize you to buy more housing.
Mm-hmm.
When was that like click when you finally got that though? Because a lot of people don't understand how taxes work. So was there a time when it finally clicked? Like, this is how it works.
Reading a lot and listening to podcasts, like completely surrounding myself around it. And that there's this entire universe out there that I had no idea existed. Right. So Robert Kiyosaki always says,
Man, I love that guy.
People, our school system, our government doesn't teach people about money, and they don't teach them about taxes.
Right.
Okay. You don't go to school and learn about taxes, right? People just go and it's like, oh, this is just something that exists. Like, this is like my, default. Right. So yeah. And I think that there's like, definitely a deep failure at a policy level around, for instance, in Rochester, I mentioned the affordable housing crisis. We don't have a cost of housing problem. We have an income problem. Okay. Why is there no policy orientation around that in terms of building economic capacity, economic empowerment? That's the only way we're going to get out of this thing here. People from outside the area see the city and they're like, oh, there's all this development going on. Everything's going great and that sort of thing. Let's call it potential. Okay. And there's nobody talking about how to tap into that potential, because we have this basically a sleeping giant in our community. That if we can just tap into that and teach people to, hey, you have the control, and here are the tools for you to leverage to build your economic capacity. That's the only way we're going to see a thriving, vibrant community. And it's not going to happen from, oh, we're going to regulate these scumbag landlords out of existence, because what ends up happening is, and what has happened is, that they regulate the good people out too. Right?
Local good landlords that want to provide.
Yeah.
They feel as though they don't need to be here anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is that, investors, they are the owners of the means of production, right? To use Marxist ideology. And they have choices. They can invest in housing, or they can take that money out of housing and put it in self-storage, or they can put it in,
Car washes,
commercial strip plaza, or car washes, or take it out of the state entirely.
Yeah.
Which we're seeing happen a lot.
A lot of money is leaving our state right now.
And to see is Cuomo still in office?
I don't know. Has he left yet?
Is he gone yet? Okay. Well, one thing is
7 more hours.
7 more hours. He's not counting.
Yeah. So the issue is that, Cuomo released this thing and wanted to have a focus group on to why people were leaving the state. Right.
Yeah.
And so, and this is not a knock, like my political leanings are more like progressive Republican, I would say. Right. And it's a good
dichotomy there.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I definitely disagree more with my Republican friends than I agree. Right. But that's like, why can't we focus on the right things that are going to drive economic capacity? And I think the reason is that, politicians want to feel like they're needed or something like that. Right.
Well, they have to in order to get the votes.
Yeah. So I think that we need to really, really reform and reinvent how we think of what the responsibility of government is. I think we still have a need for government locally, but it needs to be very, very rethought in a big way. And we're going to have a immense amount of problems from a housing stability standpoint over the next few years. They're going to hit us like a ton of bricks. And we need to get out in front of that. When the state lawmakers were crafting the policies of the Housing Stability and Tenant Protection Act of 2019, housing providers, landlords, whatever you want to call them, were never even called upon. It's like, tenants need help. Like, how can we change this and that sort of thing? How can we stimulate more investment in lower income housing? Right. And so Can I go on a tangent a little bit?
Go ahead.
Okay. So for those of you listening, what you really need to, that are at a policy making level, right? Is that one, we definitely need more affordable housing from the like true low income housing tax credit standpoint, right? So we need to have a sort of like an open season on the 9%, the 9% tax credit, and it being non-competitive for extremely low income housing, which is also called ELI. And we need to have it non-competitive because right now there's affordable housing developers that are their business model is driven by developer fees, not from cash flow from real estate, and they compete for 9% tax credits. Okay, we need to make it so that they don't have to compete, and any type of project they submit that has the criteria that is set out by whatever policymakers put in there will automatically get funded with 9% tax credits. That's one. Number two, those 9% tax credits need to be refundable. Right now, those tax credits, which is part of their like capital stack for these projects, they have to syndicate those tax credits. They have to sell those tax credits to investors or banks.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a huge cut that's taken by lawyers. The bank wants to purchase them or investors want to purchase them at a discount. So there's a lot of the actual potency of these tax credits that is eroded through this bureaucratic system. So I think that there needs to be a focus around that. And then also, how do we partner with actual private responsible housing providers to increase the stock of affordable housing options, naturally occurring affordable housing options for our low income residents? Because until we increase incomes, which is going to take some time in terms of, we need to be jobs. It
Right.
needs to be the focus. That we do need investment in housing and affordable housing for our residents. So those definitely, some tips there. And call us for, don't call the tenants union only.
Right.
Have they ever provided any housing for anybody besides homeless shelters? No, I don't think that people that provide homeless shelters should be influencing policy making at the local and state level. Okay. So that's where I think that the call to action needs to be.
That's fantastic. You're leaving us with a good point. I actually looked at my timestamp here like a couple minutes ago. And I looked at it, I was like, so people saw in the video, I'm like, I didn't realize how fast the time went because it was a great conversation. And there was so many gold nuggets in there that if you are watching this and you don't walk away with something that's impactful for your life or makes you, pushes you to look Matthew and his organization up, how do they find you? How do they find these events that you put together? Go ahead and drop your information to let them know how they can get involved.
Okay, so our next event is actually on this coming Thursday. We have Annette Campbell of the Tax Experience. She's going to be presenting on overcoming financial struggle and finding purpose. It's definitely more of a mindset content, but also she's going to be talking about taxes as well and how you can save money on it, save time also through utilizing bookkeeping services and utilizing the value of a tax preparer and accountant. So that's this Thursday at 6 p.m. At 36 King Street. They can get ticket information at buybacktherock.eventbrite.com.
Is there an event page on Facebook or anything?
Yeah, I posted a couple times. So
okay. Do they find you personally, or is there a business website they can go to?
I think that they can go to the Oak Grove Companies Facebook page. So that's OAKGROVE companies. They can look that up, and I've been running a sponsored ad to get more people in there. So definitely look that up and get on our distribution list for our future events. And also visiting our website at oakgrovecompanies.com. And then also connecting with me on Facebook or Instagram or any other social media platform. So I definitely put concerted effort into being omnipresent online. So definitely look us up and connect, and certainly reach out to me if you have any questions. I like to talk about money, and I like to talk about real estate and how I can help you with both of those things. So
I love talking about money. Yeah. So if you don't get gold nuggets out of this, and if you don't reach out to Matthew here and really just pick his brain on whatever questions you have, it's all on you at this point, completely on you, because he gave you the information. He gave you how to reach him, how to be involved, how to network, how to come out, how to change the mindset. There's so much information in this podcast today. I'm extremely extremely impressed every single time I see you doing something new, and all the things that you really do. You put your money where your mouth is, for real, man. I really do appreciate you coming in and speaking, and I hope nothing but further success for you. And if you ever come across Kanye West or John Leguizamo, please let them know. I am trying to get them on this show. I'm still trying to get a hold of them. That will end today's episode. Austin, play that funky music.